Electrolux, fan chạy tốt.
Thì 8 năm vẫn chạy tốt.
That was Vietnam's first viral TV.
Really?
Everyone was making jokes about the Fan Chai Talk. I would say, again, follow your interest, but look for quality. There's one more.
Yeah.
Be curious. I think I'm a very curious person, and I think it's gotten me in a lot of trouble, but it has also been a major reason for my success.
Okay, so Mr. Richard Moore, because I know that you have spent like 30 years for branding in Vietnam. So what is your case? Which case in your career, in your history that you feel you want to say? And with the impressions as a case?
Well, gee, I think we learn from every client,
Mm-hmm.
but the ones that I think might be most interesting are, let's say, from that first period where it was mainly marketing communication, that was Electrolux. Electrolux.
Sweden brand.
Yeah, the Swedish brand. And they, at that time, I was consulting as a creative director to a small company called Hanoi Marketing Design. And we were doing work for Electrolux's products. And they came to us and they said, we want to promote the brand.
Mm-hmm.
So the brand positioning of Electrolux at that time was durability.
Durability.
Our products last longer than our competitors.
My grandmother still have the air conditioning for Electrolux for like 15 years. We haven't changed that.
That's exactly the point. And even during the American War, Electrolux products were sold in service here in Vietnam. And moreover, Electrolux had records, service records.
Okay.
Of your grandmother's air conditioner, for example. So we had all of these records of durability for Electrolux. That's a perfect situation for testimonial advertising. But testimonial advertising is kind of boring. I think that advertising, there's three things that has to accomplish. It has to get your attention. It has to get the right kind of attention, meaning it has to be about, a marketing problem or some kind of problem that's being communicated. And lastly, it has to support the brand. That those communications have to be done in a brand image, brand identity sort of way. So testimonials, it's difficult to get past the first hurdle, to make an impression because it's a popular thing. So I was struggling to come up with an idea to make testimonials more interesting. And I came up with the idea of a Swedish archaeologist, Swedish archaeologist, a white costume with a pit helmet and his Vietnamese sidekick running around Vietnam looking for old Electrolux equipment.
Okay.
And the journey is a 60-second TVC, starts in the north, goes to the south. And every time they find something, the person says, Electrolux, fan chai tốt.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you remember.
Yeah,
but you've probably heard about it. You've probably never seen the commercials because this was done this is now 25 years ago or so. That was Vietnam's first viral TV.
Really?
The first viral TV. So everyone was making jokes about the Fan Chai Talk and so forth.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's one. And the point there is not only about the idea, but the ad, the teaser ad that we used. I often use that in my talks about communication. Every single thing is important in branding. Brand image, we really don't create brand image. You and I and everybody chooses what image we want to have of a brand, right? But we can create brand identity systems, and we can be careful in the communication in a way. And if we're creative and we're consistent, then the brand image that forms in a client's mind can be pretty close to what we intend it to be.
Yeah.
So in order to do that, we must be consistent. So that particular ad of that time, an introductory ad, promoting the excitement of this TVC, every single component that I put into that ad satisfies the question of how can I make this exciting? from the pose of the characters to the typeface being in perspective. And every single thing in that ad is an example of following an emotional criteria to make a consistent impression. So that Electrolux is an example. I think Vietnam Bank, the brand identity system that we did for Vietnam Bank.
One of our largest bank in Vietnam.
Yes, largest. And at that time, it was one of the largest brand identity systems that had been introduced, one of the very first. And the lesson there, I think, is that timing. It was a very extensive program. I think we created over 200 different demonstrations. The brand identity guidelines were very thorough. And after we completed them, I'm ready for the exposure. And it just didn't happen. It took the longest time. And then all of a sudden, months after all this work was done, every Vietnam bank in Vietnam within a few weeks changed their signage. All of the point of sale materials, the forms, the brochures, the interior signage, their advertising, everything clicked with the brand identity system. And it was a big response because it was a surprise. Maybe if you're somebody in your late 30s or 40s, you probably remember this. Every bank suddenly changed their identity. So there's a lot of impact that you can get if you're changing your brand, a new brand because it's new, everything is new. But if you're rebranding, just have a little patience. Most companies, they have a new logo. We call it a master design system. So we know how it's applied, and they're anxious to get it out there and show it. And I understand that. But if they just have a little more patience and wait until everything is ready, then it's much better. Because if it's not, half the things that are out in the marketplace are still out in the marketplace. So the consumer's only seeing a mixed image of the old and the new. It's much better if you have the impact of just everything's fresh.
I got that.
I think Language Link.
Language Link.
The
English Center.
English Language Center, right.
Yeah.
Their positioning is to begin educating kids when they're very young, so that by time they're graduated from high school and they want to enter a university, they're ready for it. They have the right curriculum. They have the right English ability. That's their brand differentiation point. And so if you look at the logo of Language Link, remember, it's like the three individuals, right?
Yeah, holding hands. I
young
still remember that.
Old. And if you look at the positioning phrase also, the positioning phrase begins in Vietnamese and ends in English. Also supports the concept of positioning. So I think that's a good example as well.
Okay, so I want to know more about your college. Can you share some of your memories and thoughts about Vietnamese colleges?
Yeah, the first one was Lê Thang Duc. Lê Thang Duc passed many years ago now, but I think he came to my workshops at first, not the workshop, but the seminar. Lê Thang Duc, I think he's the father of graphic design in Vietnam. He had some study in France. I think he also had some study in Russia. And he was very talented. He was not only a very good designer, he was also an artist. One of his works is in the Museum of Fine Arts here in Hanoi. He was a great photographer, and he wrote. And sometimes he would write in English. His English writing was just perfect. Yeah, but he was a great man. And another early friend is Lê Van Lan, Vietnam's historian. I met him because I began writing a book on the history of Hanoi. That's a book that's I completed up to the 1930s, and for the last dozen years it's just stuck there. Maybe next year I'll get back on it. And Lê Van Lan helped me a lot with that. And someone who I haven't met in some time, but Thạc Bích Tuan. She invited me to be on Nguyen Duc Toi.
Người đương thời. Yeah,
Yeah,
I have already seen your interview on the Người đương thời.
Oh, yeah. A couple of years ago, somebody said, "Oh, I remember you. You were that guy on Ngui Duk Toy." And he said, "I remember what you said about traffic." And I'm thinking back, what did I do about traffic in that interview? And then I remembered, I think Luan had asked me to compare Americans and Vietnamese. And I had said that Vietnamese, I thought, were a lot more adaptable, much more adaptable than Americans. I gave the example of I could go outside and lay down on the street for an hour, and I would be okay. And if I did this in New York City, I'd be dead in a minute.
Yes, because in Vietnam, like bamboo, we like bamboo.
Exactly.
We can
exactly like the bamboo. Very good.
Around,
very good analogy. Yeah. And also, Luan asked us to do the brand identity for VTV6. Yeah, Luan is a great person. And I have to mention my team, who T2 Van, our managing director, worked for me right out of university for a year or two, and then she left. And then a couple of years later, she came back. And she worked for another few years, and then she left again. And then she came back again just a few years ago, and she's now our managing director and a shareholder in the company with me. She's terrific. And Nga, Tuat T2 Nga, is our strategy director. She joined us because I met her very early here. I had an email from Nga just out of the blue asking me some really Tonmin Kwa question about branding. And I thought, wow, how does she know so much about branding? So I asked to have a coffee with her. And I did, and I learned that she was in university. She was getting both her degrees at the same time. Right? And she had time to meet with me once a week and have coffee and talk about branding and talk about teaching me Vietnamese was what it was about. So when I opened the rep office, officially opened the rep office later, I asked Nga to join the team, and there was only 3 or 4 of us. So the only opening I had was just as more or less a receptionist, an admin person. So here's this graduate with dual university degrees. I really didn't expect her to say yes, but she did. And she grew in the company and grew and grew. And at one point she left also. She was a strategy director, and she left.
But she came back.
Yeah, she actually, Nga, in her career at my company, I think covered every position in the company on the way up there. And she came back also. She came back from a stint at Vincan. And so Nga is our strategy director and also a partner in the company, a shareholder. And also Nguyen Tien Do has more recently to the company. I think he's been with us, 5 years or so now. He's also a shareholder. He's in charge of all the creative work. And he also came from Vincan. He was a creative director there. And he's a brilliant guy. Very good at taking an idea, developing a very good branding idea, and not only that, developing in a way that it works consistently throughout all of the different kinds of media. So that's our core team, and we're all, I think I can count on them as friends, not only working colleagues.
Very interesting. So, Mr. Richard Mo, we all know that the AI has become part of our life and become a new force, a new resources in our branding field. So, what do you think about that? And do you think AI can manipulate people, or how we can apply it in the right way to utilize the AI force?
Yeah, it's a concern. I had my eyes open wide to AI about a year ago in New York City when somebody enabled me to attend the AI convention at the largest convention center in New York. And these are companies that are doing things with AI. And I spent a day listening to talks about how companies were applying AI. and I was really surprised that it was developing so fast.
Mhm.
And I was a little concerned, and especially when some Elon Musk and a few others circulated this petition
Mhm.
to slow down the process of applying AI. I signed it.
Yeah.
Thousands of others signed it as well. But I must say that I find AI to be an enormous help. And as long as you don't misuse it, I think it can be very, very helpful for anyone, and especially in not especially, but in branding and having ideas.
Mhm.
And having ideas, we need to generate a lot of different options,
Mhm.
and that's what I think AI is very good at.
Mhm.
If you ask it a question and you're asking for, in what way might we do this? You're not just asking for the answer and going with the answer. I think
Yeah.
that's dangerous. But to get out of
Yeah.
AI, all of the different options,
Mhm.
many of which would not occur to you,
Mhm.
many of which may be mistaken because AI, as we know, can hallucinate.
Of course.
Then I think it's a very valuable tool. It's also very good for research. The IBT book that I mentioned to you, Integrated Brand Thinking book, begins with a look at brand models over the years, how brand models have evolved since the 1950s, when it wasn't called branding, it was called
Yeah.
corporate identity.
Mhm.
To do the research on that, I used AI. I used ChatGPT mainly,
Mhm.
and some Bard, it was called. Now it's called Gemini.
Mhm.
But I would ask for some research. And fortunately, I lived through that period of time.
Yeah.
And I was, in marketing communication field, so I know what is accurate and not as accurate. It was very, very helpful for me.
Okay.
So I think if you use it well, which is not to ask for the answer, but to ask for options, I think that's the strongest. But this is just the early stages.
Yes.
Where
Of course.
we all probably remember what it was like to begin using a computer.
Yeah, a computer when
It's like that.
new.
It's like that right now.
And a smartphone when it's
Yes, yeah.
first time.
So I think you have to be cautious, but I think it's a positive thing.
Mhm. Last questions. Would you give out your message for young people in Vietnam who want to choose branding as a main field and career for the future? What is your advice?
Sure. Well, for all students, whether they're interested in branding or not, I would say, follow your interests.
Mhm.
I know, especially in Vietnam, but I guess everywhere, your parents or your siblings often have ideas of, what sort of profession you should get into. But you should really follow your dreams, follow your interest. If you do, you'll never work a day in your life because it isn't work. It's something you love.
Yeah, yeah.
I stopped working when I was maybe 16 years old.
Mhm.
After that, it's all been things that I love to do. From the time I went to Japan, I don't think that I've ever worked. So that's a life-changing thing. So follow your interests. About if you're in university, I would say, again, follow your interest, but look for quality. If you follow your interest and you're in a curriculum that supports your interests, learn. Learn everything you can. Don't pay attention to grades. Forget about grades. If you learn, you're automatically going to get good grades. If you're a designer, well, I remember when I was in college, one lunch period near graduation, we were all gathered around a table outside. Sun was shining, and we were talking about, what we wanted to do when we got out. And a couple of us said, "I want to win awards." Those guys didn't win awards. The guys that said, like me, I said, "I just want to do great work. That's what I want to do."
Oh, okay.
And we did.
Yeah, yeah.
So just try to do great work, and awards will happen automatically.
Okay, so about passions, you have to follow your interest, because when you follow your interest, you will have passion about that. And quality,
Right.
yeah, I think so. Now we have many type of companies, many type agency, many type big corporation out there. So for the young people, they should choose the environment that
Right.
can guarantee the quality
Right.
and the high standard of the work.
Yeah.
Right.
There's one more.
Yeah.
Be curious.
Oh,
Be curious. I know this was an advertising line from by Steve Jobs for Apple, but be curious. So a few years ago, somebody asked me out of the blue, Richard, if you had one word to describe yourself, what it would be? And before I knew it, curious was moving out of my lips. I think I'm a very curious person, and I think it's gotten me in a lot of trouble. But it has also been a major reason for my success. I teach workshops in ideation, how to have ideas.
Oh yeah, ideation, yeah, of course.
And usually, I would say almost always, and after a workshop, someone will come up to me and say, you know, I thought I was a person that didn't know how to make ideas. I don't consider myself creative. But after, participating in all of the exercises, it's a real workshop. They say, I realize that I can have ideas.
Yeah.
It's thrilling.
Yeah,
to hear this.
it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we sincerely thank you for your sharing, not about your journey, your company journey in Vietnam, but also many of your advice, your knowledge you put for the young generation who want to participate in our brand communication field. We will meet again in the next episode of the special series, Richard More Association with Motion. And don't forget to follow our YouTube, our Spotify, and Apple Podcasts for more valuable information of the series. Thank you, and see you again.